Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, today we're diving into a fascinating set of source documents that outline a massive call to action for display reform. It's known as the Eye's First Movement. Now, if you've been following the ongoing debate around screen time and visual health, get ready, because the materials we're unpacking today completely reframe the entire conversation. We're going to break down the complex physics, the hidden industry numbers, and the proposed technological solutions straight from the source material. Let's dive right in. So, let's start with a really provocative question raised right at the very beginning of the sources. Why do our eyes actually hurt after staring at digital screens all day? For years, we've been told it's simply screen time, right? Or that we're sitting way too close, or we just need to remember to blink more. But the documents we're analyzing present a very different, fundamentally structural answer. The documents claim the answer really isn't about your personal habits at all. It's about a structural neurological illusion. See, your screen isn't actually displaying solid colors. Instead, it's forcing your brain to constantly strain to synthesize colors from separated red, green, and blue dots. It's kind of like a giant, exhausting puzzle. This triggers what's called micro-accommodation. That's your eye muscles constantly twitching and adjusting to make sense of all this fragmented light. And this heavy neural workload leads directly to cognitive fatigue and what we all commonly call digital eye strain. Okay, let's get right into section 1. The digital eye trap. According to the inventor's documents, traditional screens literally shoot tiny, concentrated energy needles of light that completely bypass our natural biological defenses. Because the light emitters, the subpixels, are so incredibly small, they have to be driven at a massive intensity just to make the overall screen look adequately bright. Now, the source actually uses a specific mathematical formula to quantify this danger. It's called the Subpixel Glare X-Factor. The formula is simply x equals z divided by y. Z is the total area of the pixel, and y is the tiny area that actually emits the light. Think of it like a garden hose. If you put your thumb over the nozzle to make the opening smaller, basically decreasing the y value, the water pressure spikes, right? Well, similarly, the smaller the light emitter, the higher the X-factor, which means the peak glare intensity spikes massively. Biologically, this results in a complete failure of our natural defenses. Our pupils dilate based on a screen's average light. Because the screen often looks relatively dim overall, the pupil stays wide open. This allows those invisible, high-peak energy needles to shoot straight to the back of the eye, burning the retina with intense, microscopic spikes of light. This understanding of the hardware fundamentally challenges how we think about display upgrades. Let's move to section 2, the 4K and 8K myth. We all generally assume that higher resolution is better and safer for our eyes because, well, it looks sharper. But the documents argue that higher resolution actually makes the physical problem worse. By shrinking the pixels down to fit 4K or 8K onto a screen, you are also shrinking the emitters. This decreases your Y value, which dramatically increases the X factor. The result? Sharper, more highly concentrated, and way more dangerous energy beams hitting your retina. The data in the sources track what the author calls the neglected 30 years, and it shows a direct, alarming correlation between the relentless industry push for rising display resolutions and a massive global surge in digital eye strain reports. This became absolutely critical during the 2019 to 2023 COVID-19 era. We all remember those endless Zoom calls and lockdown scrolling sessions, right? According to the source, this unprecedented screen time forced millions to endure these energy needles for hours and hours on end. So, if this is a known physical issue, why aren't we hearing about it? That brings us to section 3, the industry's hidden numbers. The source claims that the flagship phones sitting in our pockets right now operate at dangerous levels. Based on their device audits, major devices from massive brands operate with an X factor of 3, 4, or even higher. According to their framework, absolutely anything with an X factor above 3 is a structural hazard. It's operating far, far above safe biological levels. Now, the industry, of course, talks a lot about eye strain, but they mostly point the finger at blue light. I mean, we've all probably bought a pair of those yellow-tinted blue light glasses at some point, right? However, the source argues that this heavy focus is actually a red herring designed to distract the public. The real issue is the unfixable structural hazard of subpixel glare, and that is present across all colors, red, green, and blue alike. The sources actually go a step further here, arguing that manufacturers intentionally hide these structural measurements. You're not going to find the Y emitter area or Z pixel area on any spec sheet. The documents claim that publishing these numbers would mathematically prove their hardware is structurally flawed, forcing peak luminance 4 to 6 times higher than the averages they report to consumers. But it's not all doom and gloom. The documents outline a patented hardware fix. Section 4, the real color solution. When standard subpixel arrays are compared directly with the patented real color pixel, the difference is night and day. Standard arrays rely on intense separated glare, but the real color pixel, it physically merges the light to create a soft, uniform, solid color before it ever even reaches your eye. The core physical difference is honestly striking. Standard subpixels force your eye to deal with severe glare pulses and chromatic blur, which is when colors slightly separate and fuzz at the edges because of that high X-factor. The real color solution claims to eliminate these native flaws entirely. By distributing the light evenly across the whole pixel, it achieves an X-factor of approximately 1. This provides stable, uniform emission that matches what our physiological needs actually require. And this brings us to a really foundational quote from the source material. Real color pixel is the first architecture to achieve X approximately 1, proving that glare-free emission is physically achievable. This is a vital point to make. The author is establishing that a safe, glare-free architectural baseline is not just a theory, it's not science fiction, it is physically achievable and patented today. So if the technology exists, why aren't we using it? Well, this leads us to the final call to action detailed in the documents. Section 5. The eye's first movement. To protect public health, the source proposes a rigorous new glare-free certification standard. This would finally hold manufacturers accountable for the physical realities of their hardware, entirely shifting the focus away from marketing buzzwords like resolution and towards actual physiological safety. The documents demand 3 clear, actionable steps for industry reform. First, mandatory transparency, literally forcing companies to disclose the hidden X, Y, and Z values. Second, prioritizing health by legally or commercially requiring an X factor of 1 for baseline safety. And third, the widespread adoption of optical pure color architecture, just like the real color pixel technology. Ultimately, the source frames this entire debate as a profound issue of human rights and technological justice. The documents demand that the industry stop blaming consumers for quote-unquote too much screen time when the hardware itself is structurally flawed. It's about protecting vulnerable populations, like children whose eyes are still developing, and recognizing visual safety as a fundamental right in the digital age. We've covered a massive amount of ground today, unpacking the physics, the hidden math, and the really strong ethical arguments laid out in these sources. So we're going to leave you with this final provocative thought based on the evidence presented. Now that you know the hidden numbers and the mechanics of the digital trap, will you ever look at your screens the same way again? Thank you so much for joining us on this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and we'll see you next time.